Hey guys, tonight we step into a world lit only by flickering firelight, wrapped in coarse woolen blankets, where each breath creates a small, misty cloud in front of your face. You find yourself tucked into the cramped interior of a medieval peasant's humble dwelling, barely insulated from the freezing night outside. The bitter chill creeps through gaps in the rough-hewn walls and seeps up from the dirt floor, challenging your ability to drift peacefully to sleep. To be honest, you might not make it through even one night without desperately missing your cozy modern bed and reliable heating system. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, why not comment your location and local time down below? It's always fascinating to know where and when my stories reach you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The medieval night settles like a heavy wool blanket, both comforting and oppressive, as darkness descends on your tiny village nestled between shadowy hills. Winter nights here are not only long but unforgiving, marked by bone-deep cold and silence so profound it feels tangible. Outside your modest hut, the ground has frozen solid, each footstep audible as a dull crunch in the brittle air. Your breath hangs visibly before you, drifting slowly upwards like smoke from a smoldering fire. The harshness of these nights isn't lost on anyone in your village. Families gather quickly as evening approaches, huddling close around fireplaces that serve as both the literal and figurative hearts of their homes. Smoke lazily curls upward, escaping through a small hole in the roof. And while the warmth from the flames comforts you, the biting wind slipping through cracks in the walls reminds you just how precarious this warmth is. Winter survival in medieval times was no small feat. You wear multiple layers of clothing, woolen undergarments beneath rough tunics, thick stockings woven crudely from wool, and perhaps even an extra cloak to trap precious body heat. Wool was the fabric of life in these frigid times, insulating peasants against a climate far harsher than any modern thermostat is ever set to. Scholars still debate whether medieval peasants found these garments genuinely comfortable or merely accepted discomfort as part of life. Your small, single-room dwelling is sparsely furnished, perhaps a rough wooden table, benches worn smooth from years of use, and a straw-stuffed mattress that doubles as your family's only bed. During these brutal winter nights, the family sleeps huddled together, sharing warmth under piles of blankets. Personal space is a luxury nobody here expects or even imagines. The close proximity not only conserves heat, but creates bonds of intimacy and dependence forged in the shared struggle against the cold. In these hours, the wind whistles through the cracks of your hut, a constant reminder of nature's unforgiving presence. You might plug the worst gaps with straw, mud, or even scraps of old cloth, but these solutions are temporary at best. Despite your best efforts, drafts inevitably find their way in, swirling gently around the room and sending chills down your spine. The night isn't silent either. Animals brought indoors for warmth shuffle quietly, their occasional snuffles and sleepy sighs breaking the oppressive quiet. Chickens, goats, and even pigs share your living space, providing not only additional warmth, but also the occasional humorous distraction. Ever tried sleeping with a restless goat a few feet away? Trust me, it's an experience that's both amusing and profoundly frustrating. Winter nights also magnify your dependence on careful preparations made throughout the warmer months. Firewood collected during the year must last the entire season, and every log placed onto the fire is counted carefully, its heat savored and respected. If fuel runs low, you face a harsh choice between discomfort now or greater misery later. Yet, even in these harsh conditions, there's comfort to be found. Stories whispered softly around dying embers, warm drinks heated gently over the fire, and small acts of kindness exchanged between family members remind you that warmth can come from more than just flames and wool. And so, As you settle in beneath thick layers of blankets, shoulders touching and bodies close, you become acutely aware of the strength and resilience it takes simply to survive a medieval winter night. It's a world of rough edges and simple pleasures, where survival itself is the ultimate comfort. Tonight, nestled safely in your modern warmth, you can appreciate the struggle these distant ancestors faced. Maybe, just maybe, as you drift towards sleep, you'll find gratitude in the softness of your sheets, the steady hum of central heating, and the reassurance that, unlike those hardy peasants, you won't have to share your bed with an overly friendly goat. As darkness wraps tightly around your modest medieval hut, you become keenly aware of how fragile the barrier between comfort and discomfort truly is. Your home, modest and humble, barely shields you from winter's chill. The walls, constructed hastily from timber, woven branches, mud, and straw materials collectively known as wattle and daub, stand valiantly, yet imperfectly, against the relentless cold outside. Each gust of wind feels like a probing finger, exploring every crack and gap, creeping insidiously through the walls and into your living space. You might think modern drafts are annoying, but trust me, your medieval counterparts would consider your central heating and insulation nothing short of magic. The hut's construction does little to prevent heat from escaping or cold from entering, and this constant exchange makes winter nights an ongoing battle for warmth. Scholars still debate whether peasants fully understood insulation or simply accepted that shivering through winter was an unavoidable reality of life. Inside, the scene is modestly bleak yet oddly comforting. A single room, dimly lit by flickering flames from the hearth, serves as kitchen, bedroom, and living room combined. Furnishings are sparse but practical: a rough-hewn wooden table, a bench or two polished smooth from constant use, and perhaps a small cupboard or chest that holds your family's few possessions. On the dirt floor lies fresh straw scattered generously to provide minimal insulation against the icy ground. Despite your best efforts, moisture often seeps upward, leaving a damp chill lingering in the air. Above, the roof is thatched with reeds or straw. This roofing, while picturesque in the warm glow of daylight, is not particularly effective at keeping winter's elements at bay. Snow accumulates slowly, forming a thick insulating layer at first, but melting during daytime warmth often results in leaks and icy droplets dripping onto sleeping inhabitants below. These leaks prompt endless efforts at repairs, layering additional straw or hastily patching holes to stave off the inevitable intrusion of winter moisture. Windows, if your hut has them at all, are mere holes in the walls, covered with wooden shutters or even just cloth or animal hides. Glass panes were far beyond the reach of peasants, a luxury reserved for the wealthy. Consequently, opening a window for fresh air is unthinkable during winter nights. Even the slightest draft could sap precious heat and invite freezing air indoors. Instead, smoke from the hearth rises to escape through a small opening high in the roof, leaving the air inside smoky, hazy, and pungently scented by burning wood and peat. Yet despite these many challenges, you find simple comfort here. The hut, though imperfect, offers refuge and safety from the harsher realities outside. Your family gathers close, shoulder to shoulder, sharing both body heat and reassuring presence. The space might be cramped, the air smoky, and the straw damp beneath you, but these discomforts fade as bonds of companionship grow stronger in response to shared adversity. Humor, too, is a survival tool frequently employed. Jokes about the cold, exaggerated sighs and groans, and playful teasing about who gets the warmest spot by the hearth, these small moments of laughter cut through the discomfort and remind everyone of shared humanity. Ever fought with your siblings over the best spot near the radiator? Medieval peasants had their own version of this battle every evening, jostling for the closest positions to the fire, trading playful insults and laughter in the process. To conserve warmth, your entire family, from youngest child to elderly grandparent, sleeps close together. Bedding is limited, often just straw-filled mattresses and wool blankets. Bodies nestled tightly, you quickly learn that personal space is a modern luxury medieval families simply couldn't afford. Sharing warmth was more than comfort, it was survival. The coldest nights sometimes forced desperate measures. Animals, cows, sheep, pigs, even chickens, are occasionally brought indoors. Their body heat adds significantly to the room's temperature, turning the space into something resembling a warm barn rather than a home. And yes, there's always one stubborn goat or noisy chicken intent on disturbing everyone's rest with their antics, turning a challenging night into a comedic spectacle. Outside, winter night noises filter softly through thin walls, creaking branches, distant howls of wolves, the occasional muffled bark of a village dog. These sounds remind you constantly of nature's closeness, the thin line separating warmth and cold, safety and danger. The medieval peasant's world is never truly silent or still, always alive with reminders of vulnerability and resilience. Indeed, medieval winters had a peculiar habit of strengthening communal bonds. Neighbors exchanged advice and resources freely, knowing survival depended on mutual support. Firewood shortages, damaged roofs, and dwindling food supplies prompted cooperation, creating networks of help and kindness that eased winter's harsh grip. Even the simplest acts, like lending an extra blanket or sharing a hot meal, became profound gestures of solidarity and compassion. As you rest quietly beneath your blankets, aware of the gentle breathing of family members around you and the occasional rustle of animals shifting sleepily nearby, you grasp a deeper truth. For medieval peasants, home wasn't about luxury or aesthetics. It was about shelter, community, and the shared human experience of confronting nature's challenges head-on. Their resilience transforms cramped, drafty huts into spaces filled with warmth, not only from hearths and blankets, but also from human spirit and togetherness. So tonight, as you enjoy your modern comforts, perhaps take a moment to appreciate just how far we've come. Reflect on the ingenuity, humor, and determination of those medieval ancestors who, despite drafty walls and leaking roofs, created homes filled with warmth of a deeper, more enduring kind. In your medieval home, the hearth is not merely a fireplace, it's the very heartbeat of your family's survival, warmth, and social connection. Nestled centrally within the cramped confines of your humble dwelling, this simple stone or clay fireplace serves as both a literal and metaphorical center around which your entire household revolves. Every winter evening, family members instinctively gather close, drawn to the crackling flames that dance and flicker, sending shadows leaping gently across the rough walls and ceiling beams. The soft amber glow provides the hut's primary illumination, bathing the interior in a comforting yet mysterious light that makes even the harshest nights feel a little less formidable. As you sit quietly beside the hearth, your fingers tingling pleasantly from the radiant heat, you begin to truly appreciate the role fire played in medieval life. This fireplace isn't just about physical warmth, though that is undeniably essential. It's also a hub for cooking, conversation, storytelling, and companionship. Meals simmer gently over the open flames, filling the room with aromas of hearty stews and bubbling porridges. The constant presence of fire transforms your home into a living, breathing space filled with sensory warmth, familiar smells, and comforting sounds of logs gently shifting and embers popping softly. Maintaining the hearth is a continual labor-intensive responsibility. Gathering, chopping, and stacking firewood are daily chores demanding significant effort, especially in winter months. Each log placed onto the fire is carefully considered, its heat precious. Peasants, aware of limited fuel reserves, quickly develop a deep respect for every piece of wood that burns, knowing each one contributes directly to survival. Children learn early the art of tending flames, adding just enough fuel to keep the fire burning efficiently without waste. Yet, securing wood was not always straightforward. Forests were often controlled by nobles or landlords, with strict rules governing wood gathering. Some peasants resorted to collecting fallen branches, twigs, and even dried dung as fuel sources, supplementing their firewood supplies. Scholars still debate whether these restrictions significantly impacted peasant survival, but there's little doubt they intensified the daily struggle to maintain consistent warmth. The hearth's fire also plays a crucial role in cooking. Food prepared over an open flame often tasted smoky and rich, imbued with the subtle flavors of wood smoke. Cooking pots, cast iron, or clay are suspended above the flames or set directly within glowing embers, simmering meals slowly and steadily throughout the day. This method of slow cooking not only conserved fuel, but ensured that even the toughest cuts of meat became tender and flavorful by the time dinner arrived. Soups and stews provided both nourishment and comfort, helping peasants withstand winter's biting cold from within. Beyond cooking, fire played an essential role in daily hygiene and household chores. Water heated on the hearth was used for washing dishes, clothing, and personal bathing. Although baths were infrequent, warm water provided at least basic sanitation, a comforting luxury after a day spent laboring outdoors in frigid conditions. Interestingly, the hearth also carried symbolic and spiritual significance. Medieval beliefs often attributed protective powers to hearth fires, thought to ward off evil spirits or misfortune. Superstitious practices included leaving embers burning overnight, a precaution believed to keep harmful entities at bay. Herbs like sage or rosemary were sometimes burned in the hearth, their aromatic smoke considered cleansing and protective. Socially, the hearth created natural gatherings. Storytelling thrived around the fire, with elders recounting legends, folk tales, and histories passed orally through generations. Tales of heroes, mythical creatures, or amusing village anecdotes entertained families through long, dark evenings. Ever heard your grandparents repeat stories endlessly? Medieval peasants experienced a similar scenario nightly, though perhaps with fewer complaints, considering entertainment options were limited. Humor was a vital companion at the hearth, too. Playful teasing about cooking skills, exaggerated tales of bravery or foolishness, and friendly debates filled the room with laughter and warmth. Imagine joking about how someone's cooking skills were so questionable, even the village pigs would hesitate to eat their leftovers, a classic medieval roast, so to speak. Winter nights often amplified these social interactions. With nowhere else warm to go, families remained close, sharing both physical and emotional warmth. Marriages, friendships, and parent-child bonds grew stronger through nightly conversations beside flickering flames. Cold nights created intimate opportunities for connection, turning hearth gatherings into cherished, anticipated daily rituals. The hearth also played a key role in hospitality. Guests visiting during winter were naturally welcomed near the fire, offered warm drinks and nourishing meals. The act of sharing hearth warmth was deeply symbolic, reflecting medieval values of generosity, community, and mutual support. As your eyelids grow heavier, lulled by the gentle crackle of flames and murmured conversations around you, you realize the hearth truly is the medieval household's greatest treasure. It embodies security, nourishment, companionship, and spiritual comfort, binding families and communities tightly together against the harshness of the outside world. Tonight, tucked safely in your modern home, perhaps spare a thought for those medieval peasants whose daily lives revolved around this humble source of warmth. Their resilience, ingenuity, and strong social bonds remind us that warmth comes not just from flames, but from the shared experiences, kindness, and humanity that fireside companionship fosters. Rest easy, knowing the warmth of their legacy lingers gently around us, even across the centuries. In your humble Madidil hut, the biting cold of winter demands creativity and resilience in every aspect of daily life, especially when it comes to clothing. You might take for granted the soft warmth of your modern wardrobe, but here, Clothing isn't just about fashion or modesty, it's about sheer survival. Tonight, your layers upon layers of rough, itchy woolen garments are not simply a fashion statement, they're your lifeline against the relentless chill. Your typical outfit begins with a simple woolen undershirt or chemise. This layer, though far from the comfort of your favorite cotton pajamas, traps crucial warmth close to your body. Next, a thicker tunic, often scratchy and coarse from wear, is pulled over the undershirt. Its fibers densely woven to provide a vital barrier against cold winds. Tunics are typically undyed or in muted colors, reflecting the limited resources available to peasant households. Bright colors and fine fabrics were reserved strictly for the wealthy, and scholars still debate whether medieval peasants felt envy or simple indifference about such distinctions. On particularly cold nights, additional layers follow. Men might wear long woolen trousers or leggings, tightly woven to minimize drafts. Women often rely on long wool skirts layered thickly, perhaps adding additional petticoats beneath. Everyone wraps their feet and legs tightly with strips of cloth or woolen stockings to guard against frostbite. Shoes, if you're fortunate enough to own them, are made of simple leather or rough wood, far from insulated or waterproof, but better than nothing at all. A heavy wool cloak becomes your most valuable possession during winter. Cloaks are versatile, doubling as blankets at night and additional insulation during daytime chores. Fastened at the neck with a simple clasp or tie, cloaks protect against wind and snow, allowing peasants to venture outdoors with at least some defense against the elements. A hood attached to the cloak offers extra warmth, its rough woolen fabric pulled tightly around your ears and neck. Hats, gloves, and scarves often crude. Homemade garments fashioned from leftover fabric scraps further defend against the biting cold. Hats are especially valuable, as much of your body heat can escape through your head. They range from simple caps knitted by hand to heavy felt hats made from animal fibers. Gloves or mittens, thick and cumbersome, provide minimal warmth but significantly hinder fine motor skills. Imagine trying to handle delicate tasks wearing oversized oven mitts. Still, their value during frigid winter nights far outweighs their inconvenience. Peasants rarely had the luxury of clean, fresh clothing. Wool garments, difficult and labor-intensive to wash, retain odors and become increasingly stiff and uncomfortable with prolonged use. The smell of wood smoke permeates everything you wear, a constant reminder of the fire's ever-present role in your life. Clothes are typically patched and repaired repeatedly, as new garments are expensive and time-consuming to produce. Wool itself was central to medieval peasant life, and the process of transforming fleece into clothing was an essential year-round activity. Sheep were valuable livestock, their wool providing vital insulation. Shearing sheep, spinning wool into thread, and weaving or knitting garments occupied considerable time. Entire communities participated in these tasks, creating a shared sense of responsibility and cooperation around clothing production. It's a reminder that medieval warmth was truly a collective effort. Interestingly, medieval peasants sometimes use alternative insulating materials. Animal furs, though usually reserved for wealthier classes, occasionally found their way into peasant attire, perhaps as fur-lined hats, gloves, or cloak trims. Even straw and hay, stuffed into clothing or footwear, provided crude but effective insulation. While not particularly comfortable, these improvised solutions exemplify the ingenuity and adaptability required to survive harsh medieval winters. Historians still debate how effective medieval clothing really was at insulating against extreme cold. While undeniably inferior to modern thermal materials, wool garments were certainly sufficient for basic survival. Still, medieval sources suggest complaints of perpetual discomfort and chronic chilliness, indicating that even layered clothing wasn't always enough. Yet, these garments undeniably improved peasants' chances of enduring the winter months. There's also a humorous side to medieval clothing survival strategies. Imagine waking up wrapped in so many layers of coarse wool that moving feels like a physical battle. Ever tried bending your arms and legs when dressed like a human marshmallow? Medieval peasants certainly understood the struggle. Jokes about feeling as stiff as scarecrows or waddling around like overstuffed geese were common, providing much needed levity during cold winters. The nightly ritual of dressing and undressing was itself a comedic ordeal, especially when huddled close beside family members and animals in cramped quarters. The simple act of removing or adding layers in darkness, often fumbling awkwardly and bumping into each other, inevitably sparked laughter and playful teasing. Yet, despite all the challenges, your medieval clothing provided more than physical warmth. The careful maintenance, repair, and sharing of garments fostered communal bonds and a sense of collective identity. Clothing represented shared labor, resourcefulness, and community support. An extra cloak lent to a neighbor in need wasn't just charity. It was an essential expression of village solidarity and mutual aid. Tonight, safely cocooned in your modern blankets, perhaps spare a moment's appreciation for the layers upon layers medieval peasants wore. These rough, uncomfortable garments symbolize more than discomfort. They represent human resilience, ingenuity, and the warmth of communal cooperation. As your eyes gently close, imagine yourself layered snugly in coarse wool, secure against the cold, sharing quiet laughs with family at the humorous inconvenience of simply trying to stay warm. It's a soothing thought, knowing that human spirit and warmth endure even when faced with the harshest winter chill. As you prepare to rest, huddled close under coarse wool blankets, you quickly realize your medieval bed is a far cry from your comfortable modern mattress. Beds for medieval peasants were humble, makeshift constructions designed primarily for function rather than comfort or luxury. Typically, your bed is a rough wooden frame, raised just slightly off the cold dirt floor. Its mattress, generously turned, is filled with straw, hay, or dried grass. While this might sound rustic and charming from a distance, in reality, the straw mattress is scratchy, lumpy, and prone to moisture retention. Sharing the bed with your family isn't merely customary, it's a survival necessity. On freezing winter nights, body heat is precious, and sharing a single large sleeping surface provides vital warmth through collective closeness. Personal space, that treasured modern luxury, is non-existent here. Family members lay pressed tightly together, arms and legs inevitably intertwined, blankets tugged and jostled throughout the night. It might sound uncomfortable, and often it is, but it's also deeply comforting, a constant reminder of the bonds holding your family together. The bedding itself is minimal, thick wool blankets, occasionally supplemented by animal furs or extra layers of clothing. Your blankets are coarse and scratchy against your skin, woven by hand from sheep's wool produced by your family or community. The blanket's heavy weight helps trap warmth close to your body, providing insulation against the bitter cold. Yet, no matter how many blankets you pile on, winter's chill always finds its way in through gaps, drafts, or simply by seeping slowly upwards from the frozen ground. Occasionally, your family adds fresh straw or dried herbs beneath the mattress for extra insulation and a more pleasant aroma. Lavender, mint, or sage might provide mild comfort, masking somewhat the smell of damp straw and lingering smoke. Still, even herbs can't entirely eliminate odors accumulated over weeks or months of continuous use. Nighttime routines around bed preparation are rituals of survival and cooperation. Children help fluff and turn straw mattresses, distributing straw evenly to reduce discomfort from lumps or thin spots. Blankets are vigorously shaken to dislodge dirt or insects, then carefully layered to maximize insulation. Family members share tips and strategies like tucking blankets tightly beneath the mattress edges to prevent drafts. Sharing sleeping quarters with livestock, particularly during extreme cold snaps, is another quirky yet effective insulation method. Cows, goats, sheep, or chickens occasionally join your family indoors, their bodies radiating significant heat. Though practical, this arrangement has obvious comedic drawbacks. Have you ever tried sleeping peacefully while a chicken roosts restlessly nearby, or a goat decides your bedding makes the perfect midnight snack? Trust me, medieval peasants endured plenty of humorous sleep interruptions due to their animal roommates. This practice also created inevitable hygiene challenges. Dirt, animal hair, and odors quickly became part of everyday life, accepted grudgingly as unavoidable aspects of winter survival. Historians still debate whether peasants genuinely preferred these arrangements or simply tolerated them out of sheer necessity. Bedtime also presents opportunities for quiet socialization and bonding. Conversations whispered softly in the dark, stories told by elders, or songs hummed gently by mothers soothe restless children. Families use these intimate moments to discuss events of the day, plan tasks for tomorrow, or simply reassure each other through shared presence. Imagine drifting toward sleep, lulled by the quiet rhythm of your family's breathing, the occasional murmur or laugh gently interrupting the silence. Sleep itself was typically fragmented, shaped by necessity rather than modern preferences for continuous 8-hour rest. Medieval peasants often practiced segmented sleep, 2 shorter periods separated by a wakeful interval. During the middle of the night awakening, families might rekindle dying fires, tend to livestock, pray, or quietly socialize before returning to sleep. This practice might sound odd by modern standards, but medieval communities found comfort and practicality in this natural sleep rhythm. Interestingly, medieval bedtime customs occasionally included superstitious or protective rituals. Families might hang protective charms or herbs near sleeping areas, believing they warded off evil spirits or nightmares. A piece of iron placed discreetly beneath bedding was thought to repel harmful entities or misfortune. These practices revealed deeper medieval beliefs and fears surrounding nighttime vulnerability. Jokes and playful teasing frequently accompanied bedtime rituals, transforming potentially stressful situations into comedic family interactions. Ever argued humorously with siblings over blanket allocation or whose turn it is to share space with the goat? Medieval peasants certainly experienced their version of these nightly comedic negotiations. Gentle teasing about snoring, restless sleeping habits, or imaginary nighttime visitors fostered laughter and camaraderie. Yet despite inevitable discomforts and humorous inconveniences, bedtime in medieval households offered warmth of a different kind emotional. Communal warmth fostered through closeness and shared experience. Sleeping together reinforced family bonds, built trust, and created shared memories that strengthened communal ties. As you close your eyes tonight, nestled in modern comfort, perhaps spare a moment of gratitude for those medieval ancestors whose nightly struggle for warmth and rest taught valuable lessons about family closeness and community resilience. Reflect gently on their ingenuity, humor, and strength in facing challenges we rarely consider today. Their legacy lingers softly around you, warming your thoughts as you drift peacefully toward sleep. Even as you huddle under blankets, the winter chill insists on finding ways inside, seeping through your home's imperfect walls and floor. Tonight, however, the cold is tempered by a humble but crucial ally: your evening meal. In the medieval peasant world, hot food was more than sustenance. It was an essential strategy for surviving frigid winter nights. A steaming bowl of soup, stew, or porridge provided inner warmth, comfort, and a momentary respite from the harshness of everyday life. Your evening meal is typically a simple yet hearty affair. Meat was rare and expensive, often reserved for special occasions. So most meals revolved around grains, legumes, vegetables, and whatever could be harvested or stored through winter. Porridge made from oats, barley, or rye was a staple, thick and filling, slowly simmered over the hearth until creamy and comforting. A bowl of hot porridge might not seem exciting by modern culinary standards, but on freezing medieval nights, it represented pure warmth and nourishment. Stews and soups, too, were crucial winter dishes. Vegetables like cabbage, turnips, carrots, and onions simmered gently in a large communal pot, combined perhaps with beans, lentils, or peas to create nutritious and satisfying meals. Herbs and spices were limited but prized. Even a pinch of salt or a handful of thyme could transform an otherwise bland stew into something flavorful and comforting. Hot meals provided critical internal warmth, raising body temperature and offering temporary relief from winter's bitter chill. Ever felt how wonderfully comforting hot soup is after coming in from freezing temperatures? Medieval peasants experienced that same sensation nightly, valuing their meals as practical warmth generators as much as nourishment. Bread, another daily staple, played a crucial supporting role. Typically coarse and dense, medieval bread was baked communally in village ovens. Its warmth lingered throughout the evening, especially when freshly baked loaves were broken open and shared immediately. Bread dipped into soups or stews provided extra sustenance, absorbing flavors and adding satisfying bulk to meals. One quirky medieval cooking practice involved using bread as edible bowls or plates, known as trenchers. Thick slices of stale bread served beneath stews or meats absorbed sauces and juices, becoming soft and flavorful as the meal progressed. Afterward, trenchers might be consumed directly or given to animals, a practical and resourceful solution minimizing waste. While meat was limited, occasional hunting or livestock slaughter during winter provided valuable protein and energy. Meat was usually preserved, salted, smoked, or dried to extend its shelf life. Small portions might be added sparingly to stews or soups, enhancing flavor and nutritional value. On rare occasions, fresh meat was roasted over open flames, providing a luxurious and deeply comforting meal for families gathered around the hearth. Warm beverages, too, were essential comfort and warmth providers. Ale, mead, and mulled wine heated gently over the fire offered immediate warmth and relaxation. Even simple herbal teas made from mint, chamomile, or sage leaves steeped in hot water brought warmth and comfort, calming nerves and aiding sleep. Imagine sitting close to the hearth, sipping gently from a steaming cup, feeling warmth spread gradually through your body. Interestingly, medieval peasants occasionally relied on dairy products like cheese, milk, or butter for winter nutrition. Though less abundant in winter months, dairy provided valuable calories and nutrients. Warm milk, gently heated and sometimes flavored with honey or herbs, was particularly prized for soothing cold bodies and aiding restful sleep. Food preparation was deeply communal, fostering social connection and cooperation. Neighbors shared resources, exchanged ingredients, and cooked collectively during winter's leanest months. Meals became communal events, with families and friends gathering to eat, share stories, and provide emotional warmth alongside physical nourishment. Historians still debate medieval peasants' dietary variety and nutritional adequacy. Some scholars suggest limited diets resulted in nutritional deficiencies, while others argue seasonal diets provided sufficient nutrients through careful food preservation and diversification strategies. Regardless, surviving winter clearly demanded careful planning, preparation, and adaptability. Food scarcity was an ever-present threat. Failed harvests, severe weather, or shortages could plunge entire communities into hunger or starvation. Consequently, medieval peasants developed impressive food preservation skills, salting, pickling, drying, smoking to extend food availability through winter. Stored foods like dried beans, salted meats, pickled vegetables, or preserved fruits offered critical winter sustenance. Humor, too, found its place at mealtimes. Jokes about cooking mishaps, exaggerated tales of hunting failures, or playful teasing about portion sizes added levity and laughter to humble tables. Medieval peasants certainly understood the comedic potential of kitchen disasters or mealtime squabbles over favorite dishes. As you savor your imaginary medieval meal tonight, hot porridge or savory stew, freshly baked bread, perhaps a cup of warming ale or tea, you appreciate anew how much warmth and comfort simple foods provided. These meals weren't merely sustenance. They were lifelines, morale boosters, and community builders, essential for survival and emotional well-being. As sleep gently approaches, perhaps take a moment's gratitude for modern abundance, reflecting quietly on the resourcefulness, resilience, and communal spirit medieval peasants displayed in providing warmth through simple meals. Their legacy nourishes us even now, warming our hearts and memories as we drift softly toward rest. As you settle into your cramped medieval home, bundled against the bitter winter cold, you realize something peculiar about your nighttime arrangements. Alongside family members nestled tightly beside you for warmth, there's another group of companions sharing your space: livestock. Indeed, medieval peasants often brought animals inside their homes during harsh winter nights. Far from ideal roommates by modern standards, cows, goats, pigs, sheep, and chickens nonetheless provided invaluable warmth, helping families survive even the coldest evenings. This practice, though seemingly strange to modern sensibilities, was an ingenious adaptation to the frigid medieval winters. Animals generate considerable body heat, effectively serving as living heaters for homes desperately in need of warmth. Their breath, body warmth, and sheer mass raised indoor temperatures significantly, creating an environment vastly preferable to facing the brutal winter cold alone. Historians still debate how widespread this practice was. Some argue it varied regionally or by household wealth, but there's no doubt that many medieval peasants benefited significantly from their animal roommates. Imagine yourself nestled beneath thick blankets, perhaps drifting gently towards sleep, when suddenly your cow shifts restlessly, nudging your feet and disturbing your slumber. Chickens perched near the hearth cluck quietly but persistently, occasionally erupting in brief squabbles over preferred roosting positions. A goat, famous for curiosity and stubbornness, might decide your bedding or clothing makes a perfect midnight snack. Trust me, medieval peasants faced plenty of comedic and frustrating sleep interruptions due to their indoor animals. Of course, living alongside animals created obvious hygiene challenges. Dirt, straw, manure, animal hair, and odors inevitably accumulated, requiring constant attention and tolerance. Medieval homes weren't exactly pristine by modern standards, yet peasants managed cleanliness as best they could. Straw bedding was frequently replaced or refreshed, floors swept, and animal spaces organized to minimize mess. Despite these efforts, medieval peasants inevitably accepted a certain level of untidiness as an unavoidable reality of winter survival. Livestock also presented other practical inconveniences. Animals required constant feeding, watering, and care, chores made more difficult by crowded indoor spaces. Winter meant storing hay, grain, and other feed indoors, further reducing available living area and creating additional clutter. Imagine trying to navigate through your already cramped home, stumbling over hay piles, feed sacks, and restless animals, a daily medieval reality that combined inconvenience with humorous frustration. Interestingly, animals sometimes held symbolic or spiritual significance for medieval peasants. Certain animals, like cows or chickens, represented prosperity, fertility, and good fortune. Peasant beliefs sometimes attributed protective or lucky qualities to animals, believing their presence could ward off evil spirits, misfortune, or illness. The spiritual dimension added complexity and emotional depth to human-animal relationships, extending beyond mere practicality. Winter months amplified peasants' reliance on livestock products. Milk, cheese, butter, eggs, and occasionally meat provided crucial nutrition, helping families withstand harsh seasonal conditions. Fresh dairy or eggs represented valuable treats, offering morale-boosting warmth and nourishment during lean times. Milk gently warmed over the hearth, perhaps flavored with honey or herbs, offered soothing comfort against winter's chill. Livestock also played crucial roles in peasant economies. Sheep provided wool essential for clothing and blankets. Cows contributed dairy and meat. Chickens supplied eggs and occasional meat. Pigs offered salted pork and bacon. Winter animal care, though challenging, ensured continued availability of these essential products. Peasants meticulously balanced animal welfare with household survival needs, understanding clearly the direct relationship between healthy livestock and family well-being. Winter presented unique animal care challenges. Extreme cold required careful sheltering and feeding strategies. Animals housed indoors still needed exercise and fresh air, necessitating daily outdoor routines. Peasants carefully monitored animal health, observing closely for signs of illness or distress exacerbated by winter conditions. Veterinary knowledge, though rudimentary, included practical remedies, herbal treatments, and communal advice sharing. Sick animals represented significant threats to household survival, demanding careful, proactive management. Animals also influenced social interactions. Families shared tips, resources, and advice about animal care, reinforcing community bonds and cooperation. Neighbors loaned livestock or animal products during shortages, understanding clearly that communal survival required mutual aid. Even small gestures like offering extra hay or grain fostered emotional warmth alongside physical sustenance. Humor played a crucial role in human-animal relationships. Jokes about animal antics, exaggerated tales of stubborn goats or mischievous chickens, and playful teasing about handling skills filled conversations with laughter and warmth. Ever endured teasing after failing spectacularly to milk a cow or chase escaped chickens? Medieval peasants certainly understood the comedic potential of livestock chores and mishaps. Despite inconveniences and humorous frustrations, living closely alongside animals created deep emotional bonds. Medieval peasants understood animals not merely as commodities, but as essential family members, whose welfare directly impacted household survival. Relationships between peasants and livestock combined practicality, companionship, and emotional warmth, reflecting profound appreciation for animals' essential contributions. Tonight, safely nestled in modern comfort, perhaps reflect gently on the resilience, adaptability, and emotional warmth medieval peasants demonstrated by welcoming livestock into their homes. Their legacy offers valuable reminders that survival often requires embracing inconvenience, humor, and cooperation lessons warming our hearts even now. As the medieval winter tightens its icy grip, your survival increasingly depends on a seemingly simple yet endlessly challenging task: gathering enough fuel to sustain the hearth's comforting flames. In modern times, heating our homes often involves little more than adjusting a thermostat or pushing a button. But for medieval peasants, fuel gathering was a daily battle of strategy, labor, and constant resourcefulness. Early morning finds you stepping into the brittle cold, frost crunching softly beneath your feet as you begin your essential routine. Firewood, collected meticulously and often sparingly, provides your primary means of warmth, cooking, and sanitation. Each log placed carefully onto the fire represents hours of labor collecting, chopping, stacking, and you quickly learn to respect and conserve every piece. Securing sufficient fuel wasn't straightforward. Forests, while abundant in medieval Europe, were often controlled by noble landowners or monasteries, subject to strict regulations and frequent disputes over usage rights. Peasants might be granted limited permission to collect fallen branches or specific types of wood, but larger-scale logging was typically forbidden. Scholars still debate how significantly these restrictions affected peasant survival, yet clearly they intensified the daily struggle to maintain warmth and safety. Fuel collection typically began with scavenging, gathering fallen branches, twigs, or dead wood scattered throughout nearby forests and fields. This task was physically demanding and time-consuming, especially in winter when snow or ice covered potential fuel sources. Peasants combed carefully through underbrush, collecting every available scrap, aware that even small sticks contributed crucially to hearth fires. Chopping firewood demanded additional strength and skill. Larger logs required careful splitting using axes or wedges, producing smaller, more manageable pieces for burning. Chopping wood was both exhausting and dangerous. Medieval tools were crude, heavy, and prone to accidents. Peasants quickly learned proper techniques and safety precautions, aware that injury could severely impact their ability to gather fuel and, by extension, survive winter. Storing firewood effectively presented additional challenges. Wood piles needed careful arrangement to maximize space, ensure adequate ventilation, and prevent spoilage or decay. Damp or improperly stored wood produced excessive smoke and insufficient heat, frustrating peasants already struggling against winter's chill. Villages occasionally established communal wood storage areas, sharing space and responsibilities to improve storage efficiency and fuel availability. Peasants also experimented creatively with alternative fuel sources. Dried animal dung, known as peat, provided a viable alternative, especially in regions with limited forest resources. Although dung burned slowly and produced a distinct odor, it offered consistent warmth and availability, representing resourcefulness born of necessity. Imagine tending your hearth, humorously acknowledging the less than pleasant aroma of burning dung, yet deeply appreciating the warmth it provides. In regions abundant in wetlands, peat moss became another essential fuel. Peat was laboriously harvested by cutting dense layers of decayed vegetation, dried carefully into bricks, and stored for later use. Peat fires burned long and hot, providing valuable winter warmth. However, harvesting peat required intense physical labor, cutting, transporting, drying, and created lasting ecological impacts still debated by modern scholars. Medieval fuel gathering practices occasionally inspired humorous village interactions. Jokes about unsuccessful wood hunts, exaggerated tales of heroic battles against stubborn logs, or playful teasing about chopping skills provided comedic relief from daily frustrations. Ever struggled hilariously to split an especially stubborn piece of firewood, inspiring laughter and teasing from family members? Medieval peasants certainly understood these comedic scenarios. Fuel shortages, however, presented serious threats. Insufficient firewood or alternative fuels meant immediate discomfort and risk of illness, frostbite, or worse. Severe winters could trigger fuel crises, prompting desperate measures like dismantling furniture or structures for emergency firewood. Villages carefully monitored fuel reserves, cooperating closely during shortages. Understanding survival depended crucially on community support and resource sharing. Gathering fuel also carried symbolic significance. Hearth fires represented family unity, safety, and prosperity. Carefully tended flames were believed to ward off evil spirits, misfortune, or illness. Rituals surrounding fuel collection, offering prayers, blessings, or symbolic gestures reflected deeper medieval beliefs about fire's protective powers. Firewood collection was often communal, strengthening social bonds and cooperation. Families worked together, sharing labor, advice, and resources. Neighbors loaned tools, offered fuel surplus during shortages, or collaborated on large-scale wood-gathering efforts. Community wood-gathering events combined labor with socializing, reinforcing village solidarity through shared purpose and hardship. Interestingly, medieval fuel gathering influenced broader environmental interactions. Peasants carefully managed forest resources, understanding overharvesting threatened long-term survival. Sustainable practices, selective cutting, rotational harvesting, Replanting trees emerged naturally from practical necessity. Medieval peasants demonstrated remarkable ecological awareness, balancing immediate survival needs with long-term environmental sustainability, a legacy modern scholars increasingly appreciate. Tonight, safely nestled in your modern warmth, perhaps reflect gently on medieval peasants' daily fuel-gathering struggles. Their resilience, resourcefulness, humor, and environmental awareness offer valuable lessons warming our hearts even now. Imagine their satisfaction seated around roaring hearth fires, appreciating deeply every precious log burning steadily, warming bodies and spirits against winter's harshness. As sleep gently approaches, perhaps express quiet gratitude for modern comforts, reflecting warmly on medieval peasants whose daily efforts secured warmth, safety, and community. Their legacy lingers softly around us, reminding us warmth comes not just from flames, but from cooperation, resourcefulness, and human spirit facing challenges bravely together. As you nestle beneath your rough wool blankets, the wind howls gently outside, a constant reminder that surviving medieval winter nights isn't just about physical warmth, it's also about social bonds and emotional closeness. In a world without central heating or electric blankets, human companionship is perhaps the most vital resource of all. Families, neighbors, and entire communities rely heavily on one another. And during the harshest winters, closeness becomes a survival necessity rather than just a comforting option. Your family sleeps tightly huddled together, a tangled mess of blankets, limbs, and bodies. This proximity is crucial. Each person's body heat provides warmth, creating a small bubble of comfort within an otherwise frigid hut. Sleeping arrangements aren't simply about rest, they're carefully orchestrated strategies to maximize warmth. Children are tucked snugly between adults, the elderly placed closer to fires, and able-bodied adults positioned to shield others from drafts and cold air. This intense closeness has an intriguing social side effect, fostering emotional intimacy and strong family bonds. Conversations murmured quietly in the dark, gentle reassurances. Whispered jokes or simple expressions of love offer profound emotional comfort against the bitter cold. Imagine drifting towards sleep to the soft sound of your parents, quietly discussing the day's events or your siblings, trading playful banter about who's hogging the blankets. These nightly interactions reinforce family unity, creating bonds resilient enough to endure winter's toughest challenges. Medieval peasants extended closeness beyond immediate families, relying heavily on neighbors and communities for support. Villages operated as interconnected units, recognizing that individual survival depended directly on communal cooperation. Neighbors regularly checked in with one another during winter, offering spare blankets, firewood, food, or simply companionship. Small gestures like lending an extra cloak or sharing a hot meal became profound expressions of village solidarity, kindness, and mutual aid. Festivals, religious ceremonies, and communal gatherings provided valuable social and emotional warmth, especially during long winter months. Events like Yule celebrations or Candlemas brought villagers together, their shared participation generating collective warmth, both literal and figurative. Families exchanged resources, advice, and encouragement during these gatherings, reinforcing community cohesion and emotional resilience against winter's hardships. Scholars still debate the extent of medieval peasants' awareness regarding emotional and psychological benefits derived from physical closeness. While some argue these were purely practical survival strategies, others suggest peasants instinctively recognized emotional warmth as vital for mental well-being during difficult seasons. Either way, medieval winter customs undeniably fostered intimacy, companionship, and emotional resilience, transforming harsh circumstances into opportunities for strengthened relationships. Interestingly, medieval concepts of personal space differed significantly from modern preferences. Today, we value privacy and individualism. Medieval peasants, by necessity, embraced closeness and collective living. Sleeping arrangements, shared spaces, and communal chores minimized personal space but maximized emotional connections, creating environments where companionship flourished naturally. Privacy might be limited, but peasants gained emotional warmth and support impossible in more isolated circumstances. Human closeness also extended humorously into daily interactions. Jokes about who snored loudest, exaggerated tales of blanket-stealing siblings, or playful teasing about personal habits filled homes with laughter and warmth. Imagine the comedic scenarios medieval peasants faced nightly, like arguing playfully over whose feet felt coldest or whose turn it was to sleep closest to the cow. These humorous exchanges transformed potentially uncomfortable situations into opportunities for laughter and familial bonding. Physical closeness sometimes led to conflicts too. Crowded sleeping quarters inevitably created minor irritations or disagreements, prompting humorous squabbles resolved quickly through laughter or gentle teasing. Families understood these disagreements as natural consequences of close living, recognizing their temporary inconvenience outweighed by the benefits of emotional and physical warmth. Human companionship became especially critical during illness or hardship. Sick or elderly family members received careful attention and nurturing from others, their vulnerability highlighting community responsibilities and compassion. Winter illnesses were frequent and dangerous. Villages cooperated closely, ensuring sick neighbors received warmth, food, medicine, and emotional support necessary for recovery. These acts of kindness strengthened village bonds, reinforcing collective responsibility and mutual trust. Peasant communities regularly shared resources to survive winter hardships. Food shortages, firewood scarcity, or extreme cold prompted immediate communal responses, neighbors providing surplus resources, collective hunting or gathering expeditions, or communal cooking and meal sharing. These cooperative actions demonstrated clearly peasants' deep understanding of interdependence and communal survival strategies. The emotional closeness developed during harsh winters shaped medieval communities profoundly, fostering empathy, cooperation, and resilience. Peasants recognized clearly that individual survival depended directly on collective well-being, reinforcing emotional bonds through shared experiences and mutual support. These lessons, though learned through hardship, created lasting legacies of community strength, emotional warmth, and collective identity. Tonight, safely nestled in your modern comfort, perhaps reflect gently on medieval peasants' daily struggles, ingenuity, and emotional closeness. Their resilience, humor, kindness, and communal bonds offer valuable reminders that warmth comes not just from blankets or fires, but from human connection, cooperation, and compassion. As your eyes drift gently closed, imagine yourself surrounded closely by family and neighbors, their quiet presence comforting against winter's chill. Reflect gratefully on the emotional warmth medieval communities cultivated naturally through survival necessities, understanding clearly that their legacy warms our hearts even now, providing quiet reassurance against life's inevitable hardships. As the winter night deepens, your medieval home offers few comforts beyond family warmth, rough blankets, and the flickering glow of the hearth. But tonight, there's another crucial companion helping you endure the bitter chill warm beverages. In a world without electric kettles or microwaves, hot drinks weren't mere conveniences. They were essential weapons in the daily struggle against cold, fatigue, and winter illness. Imagine yourself seated close to the fire, cradling a simple earthenware mug filled with gently steaming ale or mulled wine. As you sip carefully, warmth spreads immediately through your chest, radiating outward to fingertips and toes, providing instant physical and emotional comfort. Medieval peasants relied heavily on these drinks, understanding their dual benefits as both practical warmth generators and morale boosters. Ale, brewed primarily from barley or oats, was a staple medieval beverage consumed by nearly everyone, men, women, and children alike. Typically brewed weekly for daily consumption, ale provided valuable hydration and nourishment throughout winter. Though alcohol content varied, medieval ale often resembled modern beer but less potent, consumed generously to maintain hydration and warmth. On particularly cold evenings, ale might be gently warmed by placing mugs directly beside the hearth, transforming it into a soothing, comforting beverage. Mulled wine, known then as hippocras, represented a luxurious treat often reserved for special occasions or particularly frigid nights. Red wine, when peasants had access, was heated carefully and infused with spices like cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and sometimes sweetened slightly with honey. These spices, beyond flavor enhancement, were believed to offer medicinal properties, improving digestion, blood circulation, and general health during winter months. Historians still debate medieval beliefs regarding spices' medicinal effectiveness, yet clearly peasants valued mulled wine highly, considering it both pleasurable and hopeful. Warm milk, gently heated over the fire and sometimes flavored with honey or herbs, provided valuable nutrition and comfort, particularly for children or elderly family members. Milk was a precious commodity during winter, as cows produced less milk during colder months, making warm milk consumption particularly special. Imagine sipping carefully from a steaming cup of honey-sweetened milk, feeling warmth spread slowly through your body, comforting nerves and promoting restful sleep. Herbal teas represented another crucial category of winter beverages. Chamomile, mint, sage, thyme, or elderflower, steeped carefully in hot water, offered immediate warmth and soothing comfort. Medieval peasants often gathered and dried herbs carefully throughout warmer months, storing them meticulously for winter use. Teas provided hydration, warmth, medicinal benefits, and emotional comfort, particularly during illness or discomfort. Imagine sipping gently from a mug of chamomile tea, feeling its subtle floral aroma and warmth ease tensions and anxieties caused by winter's hardships. Interestingly, medieval hot beverage preparation methods were often creative and resourceful. Without modern tea kettles, peasants typically boiled water directly in metal or clay pots, suspended carefully over open fires. Heated beverages were ladled directly into mugs or bowls, served carefully to family members seated close around the hearth. Cups or mugs themselves, typically simple pottery or carved wooden vessels, retained warmth well, enhancing beverage enjoyment through tactile sensations of heat and comfort. Hot beverages played essential social roles within medieval communities. Sharing drinks created natural opportunities for conversations, companionship, and emotional connection. Families exchanged daily news, humorous stories, or quiet reflections while sipping beverages near fires. Warm drinks accompanied visits from neighbors, guests, or traveling merchants, symbolizing hospitality, generosity, and community solidarity. Imagine villagers gathered closely around hearths, exchanging laughter, advice, and encouragement over mugs of warmed ale or spiced wine scenes, illustrating emotional warmth naturally fostered through shared beverage rituals. Humor often accompanied medieval beverage consumption, particularly regarding communal drinking practices. Jokes about ale strength or exaggerated tales of questionable brewing skills filled tavern conversations or household gatherings with laughter and camaraderie. Medieval peasants undoubtedly understood comedic potential inherent in beverage preparation mishaps or exaggerated reactions to particularly potent drinks. Warm beverages also featured prominently in medieval medicine, believed widely to offer therapeutic benefits beyond simple hydration. Teas or wine infusions might treat colds, digestive troubles, insomnia, or fatigue. Medieval medical theories, though rudimentary by modern standards, recognized correctly that warmth and hydration promoted health and recovery during winter illnesses. Peasants valued beverages' medicinal properties highly, carefully preparing drinks during sickness, nurturing ill family members patiently with herbal infusions or carefully warmed liquids. Warm beverages symbolized emotional warmth alongside physical comfort. Carefully prepared drinks represented kindness, compassion, and nurturing within families or communities. Offering warm ale or tea expressed profound emotional support and reassurance during difficult times. Medieval peasants clearly recognized beverages' power to soothe anxieties, fears, or loneliness, reinforcing emotional bonds naturally through daily beverage rituals. Tonight, safely nestled in your modern warmth, perhaps spare quiet gratitude for medieval peasants whose daily beverage practices taught valuable lessons about resourcefulness, ingenuity, community, and emotional warmth. Imagine yourself seated near their hearths, sipping gently from mugs filled with carefully prepared beverages, feeling emotional connections naturally fostered through shared rituals of survival, companionship, and comfort. As your eyes gently close, imagine medieval peasants gathered closely around hearths, exchanging laughter, warmth, kindness, and humanity through simple mugs of warm beverages. Their legacy warms our hearts even now, reminding us clearly warmth comes not just from fires or blankets, but from emotional connections, compassion, and human spirit facing life's inevitable challenges bravely, together. As the wind whistles outside your wooden shutters and the glow of the hearth begins to fade, you glance toward the bundles of dried herbs hanging above your doorframe. In a time when science was scarce and medicine was a blend of tradition and hope, medieval peasants turned to folklore, superstition, and curious remedies to stay warm and safe through the coldest nights. Tonight, you realize that your survival isn't just about layering wool and hugging the fire. It also involves trusting in charms, concoctions, and a few odd traditions passed down for generations. You reach under your straw mattress and feel for the small iron nail tucked there. It's not there for repairs. According to long-held belief, iron repels evil spirits and keeps away the cold-induced night terrors that prey on the weary. It may not warm your toes, but it eases your mind. Peace of mind, after all, is half the battle on a freezing night. Superstition saturates the medieval home. Garlic hangs in the rafters not only for cooking, but also to ward off illness and malevolent forces. A small pouch of rosemary might be sewn into a tunic to keep the heart warm, and children are sometimes given clove-studded oranges, not just for their precious scent, but as a token against coughs and winter demons. Scholars still debate how much of this was spiritual defense versus rudimentary medicine, but to the medieval peasant, the line between magic and medicine was practically non-existent. Herbal remedies fill your home with strong, earthy scents. Dried sage, thyme, yarrow, or elderflower are steeped into teas or brewed into ointments meant to stoke the inner fire. Your mother swears by a tonic made of warm cider, honey, and a dash of mustard seed warms the chest and the spirit, she says. Is it effective? Maybe, but more importantly, it gives you something to believe in, and sometimes that belief alone can chase away the cold. One of the more bizarre practices: heated stones wrapped in cloth and tucked under the bed or into the folds of your cloak. They're called night hearts in your village. These stones, once blistering hot from the fire, retain their heat for hours. Children cuddle them. Elders tuck them behind aching knees. And you keep yours nestled between your feet until the warmth fades and you drift into a gentler sleep. Some villagers believe certain chants, spoken softly before sleep, protect the household from the cold's more mysterious dangers. A whispered rhyme, something your grandmother taught you long ago, might sound like nonsense, but brings undeniable comfort. You repeat it now, softly, the words almost lost in the crackling of the last log. Cold be gone, warmth be near. Keep my breath and bones this year. There's humor in these rituals, too. Who hasn't laughed at the neighbor who swears that if you place a boiled onion on your windowsill, it'll soak up the frost? Or the cousin who refuses to wear socks, convinced that bare feet on wood pulls heat from the earth? You chuckle at these quirks until you try them yourself on an especially bitter night. And then, maybe they aren't so silly after all. Winter myths abound. Tales of frost spirits creeping into homes, stories of invisible illnesses that ride in on cold air, warnings not to whistle after dark lest the chill callers come. These stories, often told by firelight, are half warning, half entertainment, and fully effective at convincing you to pull your blanket a little tighter. Some of these beliefs even extend to architecture. Doorways are designed to face east to greet the sun's warmth first. Hearths are built with certain stones believed to retain heat better, or to keep fire spirits content. You're not sure if it's true, but you never question the old ways. Not when you've made it through 3 winters with only 2 frozen toes. Of course, not all remedies are harmless. Some villagers concoct foul-smelling brews of animal fat and ash to rub on the chest for deep warmth. Others recommend sleeping with a baked potato under your hat. And then there's your uncle's personal favorite, wrapping a warm cabbage leaf around your neck to trap heat. Did it work? He claims it saved him from frostbite once. You never found the courage to test it yourself. What matters most in all these rituals is their role in survival, physical, emotional, and cultural. In the absence of certainty, medieval peasants developed systems of belief that turn fear into action. Whether or not garlic truly stops spirits, whether mustard tea cures chills, these customs brought comfort, a sense of control, and community identity. These quirky remedies and beliefs are passed down like heirlooms. Your mother teaches you just as hers did before, and someday you'll pass these nonsense practices to your children, and they'll laugh at them too until the night grows too cold, and suddenly they find themselves pressing a heated stone to their chest and whispering old rhymes into the dark. So tonight, as the fire dies and your breath once again becomes visible, you pull your blankets tight, place the hot stone under your feet, and rest your hand over that old iron nail beneath your bed. The cold is still there, but so is everything else. Family, tradition, and the quiet, powerful magic of believing in warmth. The fire crackles low now, casting long shadows across your packed earthen floor. Outside, the frost creeps in around the doorframe, but inside, you keep warm not just with wool and soup, but with movement. In a medieval world without treadmills, electric blankets, or heated floors, one of the most effective strategies peasants used to stay warm was to never stop moving. From dawn to dusk, and often well beyond, the rhythm of your body is what keeps the cold at bay. Work is not merely survival, it's your daily heater. Every task, no matter how small, becomes an opportunity to generate heat. You chop wood, haul water, sweep the floor, spin wool, stir pots, tend animals, and mend clothes. All of it feeds your family and keeps your blood moving. Picture this. You step outside to gather more kindling before night fully falls. The cold bites hard at first, your breath turns to mist, but after only a few minutes of lifting, stacking, and hauling, your cheeks flush and your fingers start to tingle. That's the warmth of effort. A medieval peasant doesn't just tolerate winter, they outpace it. Physical labor is constant. There's no such thing as resting for too long in winter. Idleness equals cold. So you sweep the hearth, knead bread, shake out straw bedding, and even pace in place while waiting for the stew to finish. The most ingenious of warming strategies, chores that double as exercise. Shelling beans, do it while squatting near the fire, mending clothes. Sit in the patch of sunlight that sneaks through the thatch and stretches your legs. Historians note that this need to keep warm through work created a social rhythm built on movement. Chores weren't scheduled solely by need. They were arranged with cold in mind. People saved the most active tasks for the coldest parts of the day, threshing grain, hauling ice, clearing pathways. More delicate tasks like spinning wool or carving wood were saved for midday when the hut was warmest from the fire. And then, of course, there's the full body workout known as snow shoveling. Though the word didn't exist yet, the concept certainly did. Clearing paths through snow to the barn, to the well, or even just to the privy was exhausting but effective. You grumble about the cold, but by the end of the task, you're sweating under layers of wool, your heart pumping, and your fingers warm again. Sometimes staying warm meant dancing. No, really. Not waltzing or minuet, but casual rhythmic stepping hopping from foot to foot, stomping softly to keep circulation going. Children turn this into games, circle dances around the fire, foot races through packed snow, mock battles with straw brooms. Laughter, of course, is another great generator of heat. And let's not forget the chores that require collaboration. Slaughtering animals, salting meat, preparing hides gruesome, yes, but highly active. One popular task during winter, weaving and woolworking. Entire households gather to spin, knit, and weave wool into cloth and garments. Not only do these activities provide much-needed clothing, but the repetitive movements of fingers, hands, and arms keep blood flowing. Even mealtime has its moments of warmth-generating labor. Grinding grain for bread, stirring stew, carving wood for utensils all involve small, active movements that chip away at the cold. And after supper, you might spend a few minutes massaging sore limbs or stretching your back, not just for comfort, but because it keeps you warm. Interestingly, this need for physical warmth spills into sleeping arrangements too. Some families perform quick movements or even stretches before settling in under the covers. Children bounce gently in place while adults might stamp feet or roll shoulders, warming the body before wrapping it tight in wool and hope. Scholars continue to explore how much of medieval physical labor was driven by the need for warmth rather than just productivity. While the two are tightly linked, it's clear that during winter, activity and heat were inseparable partners. A lazy peasant in December didn't just earn fewer coins, they froze. And naturally, physical effort provided more than just heat. It gave structure to days, purpose to idle hours, and a sense of control over otherwise unforgiving elements. It also allowed for moments of joy, spontaneous play among children, moments of exaggerated theatricality from a tired farmer lifting a log, or the small competitions who can stack the fastest, the tallest, the neatest pile of wood. Of course, movement came with its risks. Slips on ice, exhaustion, frostbitten fingers, and sore muscles plagued every winter season, yet peasants knew that stillness was worse. Stillness invited cold, invited illness, and weakened resolve. Some found rituals in their movement. One woman might sweep her home in slow, meditative circles each morning, blessing each corner with intention. A shepherd might take extra laps around the barn just to feel his feet again. Even pacing while thinking became part of the daily routine, a mental and physical habit rolled into one. So tonight, as you lay comfortably still in a world where heating systems hum quietly, remember the constant motion that once kept your ancestors warm. Warmth wasn't handed to them. They earned it, step by step, chore by chore. Every swing of the axe, every tug of the loom, every sweep of the broom was a rebellion against the frost. And even now, as you lie still and the cold is only a metaphor, you carry within you the rhythm of their resilience, a gentle, enduring warmth born from the human will to move, to endure, and to overcome. Even in the coldest months, when snowbanks press up against the outer walls and the air seems to freeze mid-breath, your village still finds ways to gather. It's not just necessity, it's celebration, survival, and soul. When the night seems endless and the days too short to warm the earth, medieval communities turn to something older than the cold: fire, festivity, and fellowship. Tonight, the village square comes alive with a festival fire. At first glance, it may seem like a luxury, a waste of fuel during a time when every log is precious, but it's anything but. These great fires, lit for seasonal feasts, holy days, and midwinter festivals, provide warmth that reaches far beyond the physical. They are radiant circles of light, heat, and joy in a dark season. You walk slowly toward the center of the square, wrapped tightly in your cloak. The fire roars and crackles, sending sparks up into the night sky like tiny stars escaping Earth's pull. People begin to gather neighbors, friends, even distant family from other hamlets. Their faces glow orange in the firelight, eyes flickering like the flames. This is more than a bonfire. It's a ritual. Around it, people dance to the sounds of simple instruments, tambourines, flutes, hand drums. Some clap, some sway, some stamp their feet in rhythm, not just for joy, but to warm themselves. Movement becomes music. Music becomes memory. One of the most cherished events is the feast, often made from preserved goods and winter stores, salted meats, dried apples, dense loaves of bread, and perhaps a spice pudding if the harvest had been good. Warm cider flows freely, ladled into wooden cups from steaming pots, seasoned with herbs and cinnamon. The aroma alone feels like warmth, curling through your nostrils and nestling somewhere deep in your chest. Children play games near the edges of the gathering, their laughter piercing the night in bright bursts. Elders sit wrapped in layers of wool, trading stories of winters past. These tales are full of exaggeration and dry humor, like bedtime. Someone got stuck in a snowdrift for 3 hours with nothing but a turnip and a prayer. Whether the details are true doesn't matter. What matters is the telling. These winter festivals, often aligned with religious observances like Candlemas or the Feast of St. Bridget, are deeply spiritual as well as social. Fire becomes sacred, its light echoing the return of the sun, its warmth symbolic of divine mercy. In churches, candles burn in windows and on altars, representing hope against the darkness. Scholars still debate the origins of some of these traditions. Many winter customs blur the lines between Christian and pre-Christian rituals, with Yule logs, evergreen wreaths, and midwinter feasts carrying echoes of ancient seasonal celebrations. Regardless of origin, these moments unify the village in a shared purpose: to survive, yes, but also to feel alive. And there's something else, something quieter. After the feast ends and the music fades, and the children finally fall asleep, slumped against their parents' sides, there's a silence. Not the cold, empty kind, but the good kind. The kind of silence that feels like a quilt has been pulled across the world. You look around at familiar faces glowing softly in the firelight and know, without question, that this togetherness is warmth in its purest form. For those unable to attend in person, the elderly, the ill neighbors often bring food or embers from the central fire, believing it to carry special protective properties. Even those at home can feel the warmth radiating through stories and shared leftovers. In this way, no one is left behind. And don't forget the practical side of all this. Festival fires heat the frozen earth, melt snow from pathways, and warm frozen hands that haven't felt their fingers in days. Bonfires also light the night for safety, scaring off wild animals and, according to more than a few villagers, things that have no business in the light. Yes, there are superstitions too. Some say if you jump over the embers of the festival fire, you'll be protected from frostbite for the rest of the winter. Others say the ashes, if scattered in your doorway, prevent illness from entering. And of course, there's always someone who insists the fire spoke to them in crackles and hisses, promising an early spring. These stories, games, songs, and meals knit the community together tighter than any scarf. And when the fire eventually dies down to glowing coals, and families return to their homes carrying that heat inside them physically and emotionally, you realize what this festival truly is. Not a distraction from winter, but a defiance of it. As you step away from the fire and back into the night, You feel its echo still pulsing in your chest. Your breath rises in puffs, but your core is warm, fortified by food, music, laughter, and the strength of shared experience. So tonight, as you lie in your own bed, perhaps with a modern heater humming softly nearby, remember that sometimes the greatest warmth comes not from flames or blankets, but from standing shoulder to shoulder with others in the dark, facing the cold together and choosing joy anyway. The fire is now just glowing coals, your breath faintly visible as you exhale, and your feet snugly wrapped in thick layers. As you shift in bed, you feel the comforting scratch of wool against your skin. Of all the tools in a medieval peasant's arsenal to fight the cold, few were as vital or as cherished as their winter wardrobe. In a world without synthetics, insulation, or heated interiors, it was wool-worn, patched, and reworn that kept people alive. Wool wasn't just a fabric, it was a lifeline. Your tunic, cloak, stockings, mittens, even your cap, everything's made of it. The sheep in your village aren't just a source of meat or milk. They are walking blankets. Every spring, their fleece is sheared, washed, carded, spun, and woven or knitted into fabric. It's a process that takes weeks of labor but yields warm, durable clothing that lasts for years if cared for properly. And medieval peasants cared for their woolens like treasure. Clothing was expensive and time-consuming to make, so nothing went to waste. Old tunics were patched, cloaks were darned, socks were reknitted from the unraveling remains of others. Every household had its own pile of mending work holes stitched by firelight, seams reinforced with love and necessity. If you didn't inherit clothes from a family member, you were likely to make them yourself or trade for them with neighbors. The process of making wool garments was an all-hands endeavor. Children helped wash raw fleece in icy streams, stomping and laughing even as their fingers numbed. Women spun thread using spindles or spinning wheels, the soft whirring a familiar background sound in winter homes. Men worked looms or helped fool the cloth, pounding it in water to make it thicker, more felted, and therefore warmer. Wool has remarkable qualities. It insulates even when damp, resists dirt, and lasts through harsh wear. But it wasn't always comfortable, that itchy sweater feeling. Medieval peasants lived in that daily. Underlayers might be made from linen or softer blends to provide some relief, but mostly people just got used to it. Scholars still debate whether the discomfort of wool influenced social behavior. Perhaps more people stayed active just to forget how itchy they were. Hats and hoods were essential. Peasants wore coifs or woolen caps under larger hoods to conserve heat, especially when sleeping. These were usually tied snugly under the chin, giving everyone a vaguely babyish look, though no one dared complain. Cold ears were a worse fate. Outer layers were bulky and heavy. A full winter cloak, often made from several layers of thick felted wool, could weigh several pounds. These cloaks were lined with scraps of other cloth or, in rare cases, fur trim salvaged from discarded garments. Fastened with wooden or metal brooches, they draped over shoulders like protective armor against the bitter cold. Footwear was perhaps the most tragic part of the wardrobe. Leather shoes, often handmade, wore out quickly in snow and mud. Toes were vulnerable. Some peasants stuffed straw or wool into their shoes for extra warmth. Others wrapped their feet in strips of cloth before putting them into oversized boots. On particularly icy days, you'd see people shuffle rather than walk, minimizing exposure and conserving heat. One quirky medieval hack involved wearing two tunics of different sizes, creating pockets of air between them to trap body heat. Another popular trick was tucking the hem of a cloak into one's belt, creating a sort of woolen cocoon that insulated both upper and lower body. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. Color in clothing was another marker of warmth and status. Bright dyes were expensive, so winter wardrobes were mostly in browns, grays, muddy greens, and off-whites practical shades that didn't show stains and used locally available materials like walnut husks or woad. Clothes were plain, but they told stories. The more patches you had, the more winters you'd seen. Caring for wool in winter was also a delicate task. Washing had to be done carefully. Hot water would felt the wool too much. Cold water was ineffective, and soap was a precious commodity. Clothes were sometimes aired out over hearths, turned and shaken regularly to avoid mustiness and pests. And heaven forbid you scorch a cloak on the fire because repairing a burned hole took hours of hand stitching. There was also a strong culture of hand-me-downs. Baby clothes became doll clothes, then cleaning rags, and eventually fire starters. Cloaks passed from grandparents to grandchildren. A particularly well-made pair of mittens might last through 4 siblings. Every piece of clothing was part of the household's winter defense system, and everyone knew it. Humor made its way into wardrobe life, too. Children teased each other about who looked like a bundled turnip. Parents joked about who had the fanciest patched knee. And when someone walked in wearing a cloak clearly too big borrowed last minute from an uncle or older cousin, there was sure to be laughter, not cruelty. Everyone understood. Winter didn't care how stylish you looked, only how warm you were. Interestingly, winter clothing also shaped social rituals. People brought wool gifts during seasonal visits, scarves, mittens, socks, tiny tokens of care. Some villages even held winter clothing exchanges or repair days, where neighbors helped mend one another's garments before the deepest cold set in. These gatherings weren't just about clothes. They were about connection. So tonight, as you curl up under your soft, machine-made comforter, imagine wearing 3 layers of itchy wool and a cap tied under your chin, sharing space with 4 siblings and a goat. Somehow, it works. You are warm, not just from the fibers wrapped around your body, but from the labor, the care, the centuries of tradition woven into every stitch. Because in the medieval world, warmth wasn't fashionable, it was life. And that patchy old cloak hanging by the door, it might just be the most valuable thing you own. Outside, the sky has begun to shift. The stars blink faintly behind thinning clouds, and the long grip of winter night is loosening its hold. You feel it not just in the air, but in your bones, something subtle and slow. A promise. Spring is nearer, but tonight, we're still in winter. And as your body settles, wrapped in layers of scratchy wool, with the last embers of the fire dimly glowing, a softer kind of warmth begins to take hold, not from the fire, or the stew, or even the heavy cloak at your shoulders, but from the memories of everything endured. Because the final secret to how medieval peasants survived freezing nights wasn't just found in layers or logs. It was found in patience and faith, and in the quiet comfort of knowing that seasons, no matter how long, always change. Winter, for the medieval peasant, was more than a season. It was a test, a challenge whispered by nature. It asked, can you persist with nothing but the simplest tools, the humblest resources, and the strength of your own community? And every night you answered, yes, not with defiance, but with daily repetition, with routines that, while small, were filled with quiet power. You rise before the sun to stoke the fire again. You check on your sleeping family, tuck in the blanket edge that slipped down your child's shoulder. You wrap your feet again. You boil the same porridge. You refill the water jug. You patch the same cloak. Again and again, these tasks carry you through. What might feel like monotony is, in truth, resilience made real. And it's in these rhythms that your strength lies. Because nothing in the medieval peasant's winter is easy. Not the cold. Not the hunger. Not the aching joints or raw knuckles or leaking roof. But through it all, you remain wrapped in layers, in laughter and folklore, in the steam of tea, in the deep embrace of family and familiarity. Even the hardships become part of the warmth. That one sock always a little damp, the log that never quite burns right, the goat that refuses to stay still. They are part of your story, your survival, your humor. And each winter, they return like old friends, reshaping themselves just enough to remind you that you are somehow still here. There's a gentleness in this life, too. The small smile when your child's cheeks finally pink with warmth. The quiet hush after a shared meal. The way the frost on the window makes little stars in the moonlight. You find beauty in the patience winter demands. You learn to slow down, to listen, to notice. Life isn't frozen. It's simply quieter, more deliberate, and perhaps more tender. Scholars may never agree on whether medieval peasants truly suffered stoically or simply endured out of necessity. But the record of their lives through clothing, stories, preserved recipes, patched quilts, and the foundations of old hearths tells us that they didn't just endure. They lived fully, honestly, gratefully. They laughed, played, loved, sang, and believed, even when their fingers were numb and the bread was hard and the fire burned too low. And when spring did come, it wasn't taken for granted. It was a reward, a revival, a reminder that every frozen breath and frostbitten toe, every mug of weak ale and hard-earned piece of firewood, every whispered blessing and silly superstition had carried you here. You didn't just wait for spring, you earned it. So tonight, as the air outside your own window cools and your modern bed cradles you in engineered softness, take a moment. Close your eyes and picture that flickering hearth. The woolen layers, the smell of smoke, the clink of wooden bowls, the slow, steady breath of those sleeping beside you. And let that image hold you as you drift off, not just into sleep, but into gratitude. Gratitude for warmth, for resilience, for the strange and wonderful ways people have always kept each other safe through the long, dark night. Wind down, 300 words. Now let your breath slow. In and out. You've walked through a village of frost and fire, of patched cloaks and steaming stew, of laughter muffled by wool and warmth shared between bodies and hearts. Let it all melt away now. No need to carry the cold with you. Picture the fire just embers now. Soft red coals pulsing gently in the dark like a sleeping heartbeat. The room is quiet. The wind outside hums softly against the thatch, but it cannot reach you here. Not anymore. You are safe. You are warm. You are wrapped not just in blankets, but in the memory of survival, the quiet, slow persistence of a world that refused to let the cold define it. You felt the scratch of wool and the sting of snow, but now it's time to let them go. The straw bed creaks as you settle deeper. The goats are finally still. The tea has cooled. The moon has risen just high enough to spill silver light across the floor, and everything is still. No more movement now, no more chores. Just the soft exhale of a house that's done all it can and done enough. Let the hush of the medieval night lull you now. Let it drift you into dreams spun from firelight and fading stars. Sleep, gentle traveler. You've made it through another winter night.